Whatever happened to ADCOM? I don't know how many of you remember ADCOM, but I certainly do. They were a great company. Okay, Rick in Baltimore, Maryland writes to me and he says, Paul, what's the real reason behind the downfall of ADCOM? Well, I don't know the real reason because I wasn't privy to the company. I can give you a little bit of history for those of you that know and those of you that don't. So years ago, back kind of in the heyday of all of this stuff, there was a company called ADCOM, and they made great, affordable, high-end audio electronics. Their GFA, was it the 555 or GFA something or other, was just a wonderful amplifier. And they sold a whole bunch. In fact, if I remember, yeah, that's right, Nelson Pass, the great Nelson Pass, my hero. Hey, Nelson. Nelson Pass designed the GFA, whatever the number was, and he did a really good job. And it was a very popular amplifier. And ADCOM, they were affordable, they were a good company to deal with, and at one point they kind of ruled the world, you know. And when ADCOM was kind of getting big, they were, of course, they were a competitor to us, but they were big and we were weenies. We were just kind of scraping by trying to build up PS audio. And I always remember admiring it. So I give you a little bit of history, at least the history that I know. The company was started, don't remember the year, but by a guy named Newt Channon. Now, Newt was a sales rep. He was he was what we used to call stereo reps. So he repped a bunch of companies. And these reps, these representatives, had a bunch of brands like whatever, Yamaha or whatever they had for brands. And they would go from dealer to dealer with their line cards and say, yeah, I represent Macintosh and I represent PS Audio and I represent, you know, whatever. And they try and get those brands installed into the dealer's showroom and for sale. And then in exchange for that, they would get a percentage of everything sold, usually about 7%, which not bad. But they went out and they did all the work of keeping the dealers supplied, convincing them that it was good stuff to have. And they were kind of like the field agents for manufacturers. And they would go throughout the country and have territories. So Newt was, I believe he was in Southern California, and he was one of those guys, right? So he was a sales rep for some company that a guy named Morris Kessler owned. Now, Morris is a really interesting guy. Morris is an engineer, but primarily Morris is a manufacturer. And at the time, I think Morris was manufacturing SAE, if you remember that company, and amongst others. And he had a big manufacturing plant down in Los Angeles. And he had a line, I forgot what it was called, of amplifiers that he tried to get marketed under a certain brand, and it wasn't working. And Newt was his sales rep, and Newt had done his best and gone out, tried to get as many as he could into as many dealers as we could. It was just a failure. And it was, I don't even remember the name of it, but it was a decent amplifier. Poorly branded, terribly marketed. I don't think anybody will accuse Morris of being a great marketing person. And so, as the story goes, he went to Newt and said, hey, I've got this warehouse full of amplifiers. Do you want to just take them and see if you can't sell them, maybe come up with a different brand? So Newt looked at it and said, yeah, I'll do that. And he came up with a new brand, called it ADCOM, because at the time it stood for additional compensation. So it was a way for Newt to make some money on the side selling these amps. So he got someone to help him and they branded it. They called it ADCOM for additional compensation. And Newt was a good sales guy. And he went out and he sold the whole thing and he said, that worked pretty well. So he went back to Morris and he said, hey, can you make some of those? And then design some of these. And that was kind of the start. And then a guy named Rob Ain, I remember he was a nice guy, very, very good operations guy. Maybe I think he was a sales guy too. And then I think Newt retired, and his son Alex got involved, and then Nelson passed. So anyway, they built that into a pretty big concern, a pretty big company. And I don't know whatever happened. Like you know, a lot of companies up and down, up and down. Unlike PS Audio, which small, 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 bigger, 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 bigger. They're like, oh my God, 40 years later, we are a day late and a dollar short. So we just steady Eddie, just keep plugging along. And others rose and fell. And gosh, I mean, just think about it. Mark Levinson, they were the big deal for a while, and then they collapsed. And then, I mean, Audio Research, big deal, and then they went down. I mean, it's been a merry-go-round ride for a lot of companies. Fortunately, we've just kind of stuck at it, and over the years, finally come up to be a fairly decent-sized company. But that's all I know about ADCOM. But thanks for the memory, because I hadn't thought about them in quite a while. All right, take it easy.